Barnard Perry Selden was a 74-year-old experienced hunter who lived in Mays Landing with his wife, Janet Selden. On Monday, October 7, 2013, he told Janet he was planning to put some bait at a deer stand near Chatsworth in the Warren Grove recreation area and left his home with his dog Taffy. This would be the last time anyone saw him. Barry signed in at the Audubon Gun Club on Route 563 at 9:55 a.m. Monday morning. Hunters always sign in there so that everyone knows who's out there. He did not return home that night. At this point, Janet wasn't worried as Barry was known to make some spontaneous hunting trips that lasted several days. The next 2 days, Janet tried calling him but all her calls went to voicemail. On the third day, she tried to drive to the Audubon Gun Club to find someone that would help her find Barry, but she wasn't able to find the club. On the fourth day, she tried again and this time she was able to find the club. She got some members of the club to help her look for Barry. They searched around the area but couldn't find any sign of him. Then on the fifth day, while searching for Barry, a few members of the club found Barry's 1972 Chevrolet Blazer. Inside the SUV, they found his car keys still in the ignition, his cell phone still on the dashboard, and his dog Taffy still waiting for him. The windows of the car were left down, and Taffy had apparently survived on rainwater and corn and molasses meant for the deer. In regards to the dog, Janet theorized that quote, Barry must have left her to check on the deer stand or to put some apples out and there was a medical emergency. Taffy does what she is told, so he must have told her to stay put. The New Jersey State Police and State Park Police carried out a massive search using helicopters and K-9 units. At first, the searchers concentrated on the Warren Grove recreation area, but they soon expanded to include other parts of the wilderness closer to Bass River State Forest in New Jersey. The search was soon called off when they couldn't find any sign of Barry anywhere in the area. The searchers returned a few more times to the area, but they still couldn't find any trace of Barry. Janet said, quote, Taffy is always looking for Barry to come home. When someone comes to the door or she hears the squeak of the garage door, she runs to it and she clings to me all the time, which she never did. Barry remains missing to this day. In August 1963, Bobby Pagnon along with his three brothers, Ted, Jim and Bill, went on a camping trip along with their parents at Deep Lake Resort in Stevens County, Washington, about 20 miles from the Canadian border. On the 3rd of August, Bobby, Jim and Bill went for a hike with their mother Edna alongside an isolated logging trail near the campsite. Ted and his father had decided to stay behind at the campsite and go fishing instead. During their hike, Bill heard a creek nearby and asked his mother if he could check it out. Edna agreed and followed him, telling Jim and Bobby to wait on the trail. However, Jim didn't listen and followed Bill and his mother down the creek, leaving Bobby standing alone. The creek was only 100 to 150 feet from the trail and they were only gone for a couple of minutes, but when they returned to the trail, Bobby was nowhere to be seen. He had been barefoot, but no footprints were found. They searched him and called out to him, but couldn't find any sign of him. They eventually notified authorities and an extensive search was carried out, involving bloodhounds and over 4,000 volunteers. Searchers traveled deep into the remote Deep Lake area that surrounded the campsite. The area was hilly and rugged and was difficult to navigate. Sniffer dogs were brought in and they picked up a scent that ran for a couple of miles before abruptly stopping at a fork in the road. At the time of his disappearance, Bobby was 2 feet 8 inches tall, 30 pounds with blonde hair. He was wearing blue shorts and was barefoot. Authorities considered the possibility that Bobby could have been abducted, but due to the remote location where the family was located, they believed it's unlikely. Authorities theorized that Bobby got lost trying to follow Jim and was attacked by a wild predator such as a cougar, bear or an eagle. Both of Bobby's parents are now deceased, but his brothers are all still alive. Bobby's case remains unsolved to this day. Connie Johnson was a 76-year-old experienced outdoors woman working as a camp cook for Ritchie Outfitters of Salmon, Idaho in the area around Fog Mountain near Big Rock. Ritchie Outfitters organized hunting trips in the Montana and Idaho wilderness. She had previously worked as a US Forest Service wilderness ranger at the Moose Creek Ranger Station. She was also a member of the Selway Bitterroot Foundation, and she frequently led young people in other groups on tours of the backcountry. She was known to have very good survival skills and 25 years of wilderness experience. The camp she was working at was only accessible on foot or by horseback. On October 2, 2018, the hunters left the camp for a while. Connie stayed at the camp along with her dog Ace. The next day, Connie contacted the hunters by radio, but they were unable to understand what she was saying. When the hunters returned on October 5, Connie and Ace were nowhere to be seen. She had left her jacket behind on a table, lying on top of her gun. After searching around the area and finding no sign of either of them, the hunters notified the authorities. A massive search was carried out, involving aircraft deploying FLIR heat technology from the US Air Force, the Idaho National Guard, the Clearwater County Backcountry Helicopter Rescue Team, and several teams of tracking dogs and searchers on foot. However, no trace of Connie or her dog was found, and the search was called off on October 16. 3 weeks later, Ace would turn up at the Moose Creek Ranger Station. Ace was discovered about 15 miles from the hunting camp where Connie was last seen. He was reportedly found in good condition. Connie's family worked with the Two North Search Dogs, a non-profit organization out of Helena, Montana, to transport Ace back to the search area in an attempt to find Connie, but to no avail. Connie's daughter does not believe her mother's disappearance was intentional. It's also worth noting that another man would disappear on the same day, not too far from Connie. Terrence Woods would go missing around 5 p.m. on the same day in the Ora Grande area of Idaho. The 27-year-old was a production assistant for Maryland, helping film a documentary on abandoned gold mines for a British TV show called Whitewater. He was supposed to be working on the film until November, but a few days before his disappearance, he texted his parents to say he was cutting his trip short and would come home on October 10. When the police questioned the production team, they said that after finishing the shoot and when the crew was wrapping up, Terrence approached a ridge which dropped steeply away down a hillside to the forest below, when all of a sudden, he dropped his two-way radio that he was holding and started running fast down the hill into the forest below. At first, the rest of the crew thought he might have fallen off the cliff, but when they arrived at the cliff, they saw him down at the bottom, still running until he disappeared into the trees. The crew called out for him, but he didn't return. They went looking for him, but couldn't find him. They would eventually report him missing to the police. Despite an extensive search of the area, no sign of Terrence was ever found. Connie and Terrence remain missing to this day. On the 25th of July 1981, 14-year-old Stacy Eras from Saratoga went on a 4-day horse riding trip with her father in the Sunrise Meadows area of Yosemite National Park in California. They were part of an 8-person group riding on horses and mules. The group reached a cluster of cabins designed for overnight stay at Sunrise High Sierra Camp. They tied up their horses and mules and went indoors to freshen up. Stacy cleaned up, showered, and changed clothes. While the group was resting, Stacy told her father she wanted to hike down and take pictures of a nearby lake. She asked him if he wanted to go with her, but he declined. An elderly man named Garrett Stewart from their group accompanied her instead. The group saw the two going down the hill towards the lake. After walking a little while down the hill, Carol felt tired and sat down. Stacy then told Carol that she would continue and go to the lake. The lake would have been either a few hundred feet away or as long as 1.5 miles away. The exact location is not clear. The group watched Stacy walk further towards the lake. They then saw her go behind some trees and disappear from sight. This would be the last time she was ever seen. When Stacy didn't return, the elderly man got up to look for her, then gathered the remainder of the group to search more extensively. He later reported that he had spoken with a group of hikers, but they said they hadn't seen her. The group did find a lens from her camera, but no other trace of her. After the initial search, Stacy was reported missing to the authorities. Rescue crews invested extensive efforts to finding her. About 150 people looked for the teen, which included roughly 67 Mountain Rescue Association volunteers, dogs and helicopters, all canvassing a 3 to 5 square mile area around Sunrise Lake. Despite this, the camera lens is the only clue. Stacy reportedly had several other items on her person. She was wearing an ankle bracelet and possibly stud earrings, as well as carrying binoculars and her camera. None of these items ever turned up. It is possible that she was abducted, as there was no sign of any animal attack, and given the proximity to the camp, it's hard to believe she would have lost her way. For 39 years, Stacy has remained missing.